Muscle cars, symbols of power and speed, have a dirty secret. Not all of them are as impressive as you might think. Picture the 1960s to 1980s, the golden era of muscle cars, when beasts like the Pontiac GTO and Ford Shelby Mustang roamed the streets. Yet lurking in the shadows of these legends, there were duds, igniting fiery debates among enthusiasts. The notion of the worst muscle car is a subjective one, and we're here to shed light on 20 such contenders. Prepare yourself as we delve into the underwhelming world of the 20 worst muscle cars ever made. Starting our list, we have the 1964 Ford Mustang, the car that sparked the muscle car era, but not without its flaws. Born amidst the buzz of the swinging 60s, the Mustang roared onto the scene, promising power and prestige. But beneath the gleaming exterior lay a series of unfortunate shortcomings. Its handling capabilities were less than impressive, and its power-to-weight ratio left much to be desired. Add to that a less than stellar fuel efficiency, and it's clear why the Mustang is dubbed a dud. The Mustang may have started the muscle car era, but it certainly didn't set a high standard. The 1960s and 70s were a golden era for muscle cars, but not every model was a shining star. As we cruise down memory lane, we stumble upon some models that, despite their roaring engines and glossy exteriors, fell short of expectations. This era, while known for its automotive triumphs, also saw the birth of some of the most notorious duds in muscle car history. Take, for instance, the 1967 Mercury Cougar. Despite its aggressive name and sleek design, it failed to pounce on the competition. Touted as a more luxurious version of the Ford Mustang, it was weighed down by its own ambitions. Its added weight slowed it down, and the high price tag made it less appealing to the average muscle car enthusiast. Then there was the 1971 Plymouth Roadrunner. Looney Tunes fans might remember this name, but car enthusiasts remember it for all the wrong reasons. Inspired by the cartoon character, the Roadrunner was supposed to be fast, nimble, and impossible to catch. But instead, it was sluggish, heavy, and easy to overlook. Its bulky design and lackluster performance made it a disappointment in the eyes of many. And who could forget the 1974 Ford Mustang II? A response to the 1973 oil crisis, Ford attempted to make a more fuel-efficient version of its iconic Mustang. But in doing so, they stripped away much of the power and speed that made the Mustang a beloved muscle car. The result was a pony car that was more of a mule, slow, stubborn, and lacking in appeal. The list goes on. Each of these cars in their own way promised speed, power, and a thrilling ride. But when it came down to it, they failed to deliver. They were built with the intention of being fast, powerful, and desirable. But in the end, they were remembered as the duds of their era. These cars may have been built for speed, but they certainly didn't deliver. As we move into the 80s and 90s, the muscle car scene continued to disappoint with a slew of underperforming models. The automotive industry was shifting, and the once revered muscle cars were struggling to keep up. The 80s saw the release of the 1982 Chevrolet Camaro, a car that, despite its sleek exterior and promise of power, was a far cry from the Camaros of the past. Its V6 engine was underperforming, the handling was subpar, and the overall performance left much to be desired. It was a disheartening time for muscle car enthusiasts, as one of the most iconic names in the industry was reduced to a shadow of its former self. Sadly, the 1990s didn't fare much better. The Ford Mustang, a name synonymous with muscle and power, released a model in 1990 that fell flat. It lacked the raw power and speed that the Mustang name had become associated with. The handling was cumbersome, and the engine failed to deliver the performance expected of a muscle car. It was a disappointing chapter in the Mustang's history, as a car that once symbolized freedom and power was now a symbol of the industry's struggle to adapt. Muscle cars of this era seemed to be more about marketing than actual performance. They were built to look fast, to look powerful, but when it came to the crunch, they simply couldn't deliver. The muscle car was losing its grip on the automotive world, and these underperforming models were a stark reminder of that fact. These cars, built in the name of power and speed, failed to live up to the muscle car legacy. It was a downhill spiral, a period of decline that left many wondering whether the era of the muscle car was truly over. Even in the modern era, the muscle car industry continues to produce duds that leave enthusiasts shaking their heads. As we transitioned into the new millennium, the muscle car industry tried to reinvent itself. However, not all of these attempts hit the mark. Consider the 2004 Pontiac GTO, a car that promised to resurrect the glory of the muscle car era. Unfortunately, it fell short. The GTO's design was lackluster, and its performance, although not terrible, was not enough to make it stand out in a market saturated with more impressive options. It was an attempt to bring back a legend, but it ended up being a modern misfire. Fast forward to 2010, and we meet another disappointment in the form of the Dodge Challenger. This car was a nod to the classic American muscle car with a design reminiscent of the 70s models. Yet, it was criticized for its heavy weight and lack of agility. Despite boasting a powerful engine, the Challenger's performance was hampered by its bulk, making it less appealing to the modern driver who values both power and maneuverability. But let's not forget the 2015 Ford Mustang EcoBoost. While efforts to make muscle cars more fuel efficient are commendable, the EcoBoost fell flat. It was a Mustang in name only, lacking the raw power and throaty roar that enthusiasts have come to associate with the brand. The EcoBoost's four-cylinder engine left a lot to be desired, and it was widely considered a misstep in the Mustang lineage. These are just a few examples of the muscle car industry's misfires in the modern era. It's a stark reminder that even with advanced technology and evolving consumer demands, creating a successful muscle car remains a formidable challenge. It's not enough to slap on a famous name or mimic an iconic design. A true muscle car must deliver in performance, power, and presence, and sadly, not all modern muscle cars measure up. These modern misfires show that even with advanced technology, not every muscle car can be a winner. Now, we've come to the worst of the worst, the top 5 most disappointing muscle cars ever made. Let's dive right in. At number 5, we have the 1982 Pontiac Trans Am. Despite its iconic status on the TV show Knight Rider, this muscle car was a letdown in real life. Its V8 engine produced a measly 105 horsepower, a far cry from the power-packed performance we expect from a muscle car. Next up, at number 4, is the 1976 Dodge Charger. In an attempt to adjust to the fuel crisis, Dodge downgraded the Charger's engine, resulting in a muscle car that was more of a family sedan. Talk about missing the mark. The third worst muscle car is the 1978 Ford Mustang King Cobra. With a garish paint job and a lackluster V8 engine, this King Cobra was more of a garden snake. It was a far cry from the Mustang's legacy of power and speed. The runner-up for the worst muscle car is the 1980 Chevrolet Corvette. Known as the California Corvette, it had a V8 engine with only 180 horsepower. The lack of power, coupled with a high price tag, made this Corvette a major disappointment. And finally, the worst of the worst, the 1974 Ford Mustang II. This car was a drastic departure from the Mustang's powerful heritage. With a 4-cylinder engine and a compact design, it was more akin to a compact car than a muscle car. Its performance was so underwhelming that it's often left out of Mustang histories. These cars were supposed to be the epitome of power and speed, but they ended up being the epitome of disappointment. So there you have it, the shocking truth about the muscle car industry. We've journeyed together through the decades, witnessing the rise and fall of some of the most iconic and unfortunately most disappointing muscle cars ever produced. From the birth of the Dud with the 1964 Ford Mustang, through the Dud Parade of the 60s and 70s, the downhill spiral of the 80s and 90s, to the modern misfires of the 2000s and beyond. We've unveiled the top 5 worst of the worst. Those muscle cars that promised power and speed but ultimately failed to deliver. We've seen that the concept of the worst muscle car is indeed subjective, sparking debates among enthusiasts. Yet, the chronology of these cars, based on their release years, paints a vivid picture of an industry that, while striving for power and speed, sometimes missed the mark. Remember, not all that glitters is gold, especially when it comes to muscle cars. Join us next time as we continue to uncover the hidden truths of the automotive world. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button, Share this video with your friends and subscribe to our channel for more intriguing content like this.